Hey, 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 I was thinking. And so I wanted to come on here and share my thoughts with you. This morning when I got up, I turned on TikTok because there is a DJ who I love to listen to on Saturday mornings. He's the one that plays the music to help you clean. And so I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to listen to. But when I got on, I found another DJ that I followed, and he plays gospel music. So I decided to listen to him. And I mean, I was belting out some Fred Hammond, some Hezekiah Walker. I was like all in it. And I realized that I don't sing as much as I used to. No kind of songs. I just don't sing as much. And so I think I need to get these lungs working again. So if I don't sing, I need to play my harmonica, something, right? But when I was thinking about singing, and especially singing with the choir and doing gospel music, I thought about a couple of weeks ago when I went to my former pastor's son's funeral. Former and current choir members came together to sing a song at his celebration of life. And it felt good. It felt good to be back up there singing for the Lord and being in community with other people. I'm not joining again, but it felt good. But yeah, that funeral was something else. The guy was young. He was around my age, which kind of reminds me that I'm not as young as I think I am, right? We are getting towards that last quarter of life. But then I think about my friend who's on her way to a funeral now. She's lost six people this year, six family members. And I think in the last almost 3 years, it's been somewhere around 12, 13. I don't know. I know it's a lot. And, and my heart goes out to them because it's loss after loss after loss. But in thinking about, this is how my mind works because I go from listening to gospel music to funerals to thinking about obituaries because that's where it went from that. Because funerals is the one time, the one place where people can be perfect. That obituary typically reads as though this person lived this pristine life, right? I'm noticing even with what happened in Utah with the death of Charlie Kirk. He didn't know when he got shot that was, or he didn't know that day was going to be his last day on earth. He didn't know the words that he spoke last were going to be the last words. He didn't know. But when you listen to people talk about him on social media, you have those who praise him and those who were not a fan. And then you have the ones who were indifferent, didn't really know him, didn't really care about him. So all over the place. And one of the things and one of the prayers that I always ask is that who I am on social media is who I am in person. Like, I don't want people to meet me and I don't be that person they think I am. Now, mind you, we all have days where we're not at our best, but I want to be the person who I portray myself to be. And I'm very intentional about that. Speaking of perfection and obituaries, I remember when my dad passed away, I was responsible for writing his obituary. I had started it before he died. He had dementia, and so I knew the time was going to come where, it was going to need to be written. And I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to tell his journey. My dad, I loved my dad. My dad was a great guy, but he had his own issues too. And so anybody who knew him knew that. So if I sat there and made this man seem like he was just this wonderful, glamorous person all his life, they'd have been looking at me like I'm crazy because they all knew who my daddy was. My dad was a womanizer. He loved women. He was tall, dark, and handsome. So he always had someone, and he thought he was young. So he would always have young women. I mean, to the point that I was embarrassed, right? When he brought them around me because I'm like, what you doing? My dad was something else. And so for me to tell a story about my dad's life and to act as though he was this perfect person, that would have been irresponsible. Now, my dad, I can tell you this, when I was in college, I never had to eat at the cafeteria. My dad cooked me dinner every night. I would have ribs, pork chops, fried potatoes. I loved his fried potatoes. I have not found anyone who can cook them like that. macaroni and cheese, fried kibasi with onions and mustard on white bread. That was my daddy. Like that was his love language, and he would cook, and I would eat. But because I told the truth about who he was, my aunt had an issue with that. And I knew, like the day before the services, I had printed out all the obituaries, packed them up, drove down to Virginia. And after going to see the body at the funeral home, my aunt asked if she could have a copy of the obituary. So I'm like, of course. I gave her a copy, and a few hours later, she called to ask if she could rewrite it. Now, I've printed out all these obituaries on 8.5 by 11, probably 8 pages. I was like, no, like, there's nothing wrong because I put a lot of time and a lot of love and thought into that obituary. But she didn't like the fact that I told my dad secrets, like the fact that he had 12 kids. And at that time, we only knew about eight. I mean, but my dad, he didn't care. He was unapologetic about his life. And I appreciated that because he lived in his truth without shame. And so, the only thing that I cared about, regardless of the fact that my dad was a drinker, was a womanizer, had all these kids, all of that, is that in his last days, he told me God had prepared a place for him. That was it. That's all I cared about. So I took people on a journey of his birth, being a twin, losing his twin at 9 months, and being spoiled, and going to the army, and getting coming to Cleveland, meeting my mother, and all of that. I took everybody through the journey so they could understand who my dad was, especially my younger nieces and nephews who only knew him as an old man, right? They didn't know him in his younger years. And I wanted people to know who my dad was. I took them through that journey, and it ended with him knowing that God prepared a place for him. I thought it was a beautiful story. I had family members that came up and thanked me and told me that they felt the love that I put into that. Only my aunt, no, my two aunts did not. And I don't know why. I mean, because when he was drinking, they were right there with him. I mean, maybe they didn't want people to know that they used to be, right there with them because now they were into church. And unfortunately, I never saw my aunt again. I gave a peace offering of flowers. One took them. That was the one who I had a relationship with. The other one who I really didn't know, she would not. And I was okay with that. And I never saw my aunt that I had the relationship again until her funeral. It's unfortunate because I knew that that was going to happen. She didn't want to talk. She didn't, and what can I do at that point? But yeah, I was thinking, especially with everything that I've seen on social media this week, that we have to just be intentional about creating the legacy that we want to leave behind. And I'm not talking about, your kids, how you raise them. I'm talking about like when people say your name, what are they going to think? Are they going to think you're a good person? Are they going to think you're evil, racist, bigoted, and hateful? What will they think about you? An exercise that I often have people do when I coach them is to write their obituary. I did this exercise many, many years ago, and I thought it was powerful because it allows you to see how you view yourself. And you can ask the question, is that how you want others to view you too? And if it is, then ensure that you live that way. And if it isn't, make the changes that's necessary. So I challenge you to write your obituary. It doesn't have to be long, but what is it that people will say about you once you're gone? All righty. I think that's it for today. Take care. Bye bye.